If you currently work with me or you've worked with me in the past, or simply follow me on social media, there's one thought that I've shared time and time again that has been so instrumental in my life, so game changing for me. And that's if you set your goals and they don't pucker a certain set of cheeks, then you're not thinking big enough. You're not thinking large enough. Now imagine when you have that thought in your mind, really for the first time in your life, and the goal that comes to mind that puckers those certain set of cheeks is to go out on your own and launch your own business. Now, mind you, I was in my late 40s at the time. I had worked for nearly 3 decades for always for someone else, a W-2 employee. I didn't know anything about anything when it comes to the business industry. I had never been in a management position. I had never seen the inner workings, if you will, of how to run a business. And I certainly didn't have a business background. I was a communications major in college with a specialization in journalism. So I didn't know anything business related. And on top of that, throw in the fact that you all know I'm not very good in math, not very good with numbers. So I already had quite a bit of challenge in my way when I decided to launch Fernandes Fit now 3 years ago or so, 3+ years ago. But that's the whole idea behind setting your goals high. Because let's face it, we can make our goals really, really mediocre and we achieve them oftentimes easily. But what are we actually achieving? When we set the bar so low, we're not really challenging ourselves. We're trying to accomplish something simple and wanting to make it seem like we've done something, when in fact, the biggest goals that we've set in our life are goals that chances are we have stumbled at along the way many times. We have failed at along the way many times. And I can honestly say, in my three plus years as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, that I have failed a hell of a lot more often than I've succeeded. The old me wouldn't even have started. And that's the gist of the message for today, is that whether you think you can do it or not, whether it seems more grandiose than you're ready to take on, do it. Take imperfect action. Take that first step. Start moving forward, even if you have absolutely no clue what to do next, what comes next, how it's supposed to look a month from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, 5, 10 years from now. Even if you don't have all the answers and you have a heck of a lot more questions that continue building up in your mind, take that first step. And I did. I was still working at a gym in Maryland when I launched Fernandes Fit. That's not an easy thing to do, folks. Working a full-time job and starting your own business and trying to operate it with what little time you have left, and factor in that I have a family, wife and son. I have responsibilities here at home. That time is precious to me. My son would have been about 10 at that time when I launched the business, 9, 10 years old. And the childhood years, they go like that. And I want to be able to be there for him every step of the way and enjoy him growing up. Well, as we always say, there's only 24 hours in a day and 7 days in a week. And we have to utilize that time as best we can while trying to navigate both a full-time job and a business that you want to go. In this case, I want to go from part-time to full-time. And I just took the first step. And it was scary as hell. I'm not going to lie to you. Trying to sell myself, trying to sell my business. I consider myself a humble person. And I don't have a problem talking to people. I think you all know getting me to shut up is the biggest challenge. But when you're trying to sell yourself, when you're not quite sure of who you are in the business world, when you're trying to sell a business that hasn't done anything yet, it's just there in name and LLC only, That's a tough thing to do. That's a challenging thing to do, and when you're not used to doing that, and to a certain extent I was, because I still had to sell myself and sell personal training when I worked at that gym. So yes, I earned some valuable experience as a salesperson, but still when the onus, when all of it falls on you, that's an incredible challenge. The old me wouldn't even have dreamed of taking it on. I would have made every excuse in the book as to why I couldn't do it. But I wanted to do this. I wanted, and not to prove to anybody else, I wanted to prove this to myself that I could do it. Because for so many years, as I've spoken previously, there were always a lot of grandiose ideas up in here, but I never took full advantage of them. I always talked myself out of them. I always made sure that there was a reason why I couldn't. And I would put the onus on family and life in general and put the blame there as if somehow those people or those things, those entities were holding me back, when in fact only I was holding myself back. So when I launched that business and I didn't have a client to my name, I believed in myself that I could make it happen. I really could. And it's not to say I didn't have doubts. That's not to say that I wondered what would happen. That's not to say that I wasn't fearful of failing. But one thing I've learned is that I'd much rather fail each and every day and twice on Sunday and learn from the mistakes I made that led to my failures than live with the regret of knowing I had opportunities to do this or opportunities to do that and didn't even attempt. There's no worse feeling than wondering if you could do something. There's no worse feeling than looking back 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years down the road and saying, man, I wish I had tried doing that. I wish I had attempted to open that business. I wish I had attempted to have stronger relationships with with family, with friends. I mean, so many of those, man, I wish, or I shoulda, or I coulda, but I didn't. I knew that if I didn't start doing it now, the opportunity to do it as I got older would diminish. So it's, to me, starting in my late 40s was a challenge. I was, behind a lot of other people who had started before me and had more experience than I did and still do. But I knew if I at least took the necessary steps to make things happen, if I at least learned from some great people, and you'll be hearing more about that in future episodes. If I was open to learning more about the industry, more about the business world, more about strategies that I could implement that could help me, your processes and your systems and automations and so forth. But most of all, learned more about myself, what I was capable of. Could my mind start thinking from a business perspective, like a businessman should, after not having to think that way my entire life? So I set out to do it. And man, has it been a roller coaster ride ever since.